going to continue along. We are now joined by Kevin Harvick. Kevin, you're running double duty this weekend, but looks a little bit different than what double duty probably meant to you before.
It's definitely not the attire that I thought I would be wearing this year, but it's been a fun process. I think sometimes there are phone calls that you react to different than others, and when Rick called and said what he needed, and I said okay, and everybody at Fox was kind enough to let us take the day to do what they needed to do. So it's been a fun process to be able to go through everything with Cliff and everybody at Hendrick. They've been true pros about it. SHR has been great to give us our seats and seat rails and make the fitting process a little bit less complicated, and it's gone well. So, but definitely not something that I expected to be doing this year.
Well, we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. We'll start with Steven and go to Matt Weaver.
Steven Toronto, CBS Sports. Kevin, when you stepped out of the car for the last time at Phoenix last year, you had gone through kind of your forever tour, and you had those moments with your family, with Rodney Childers, your crew, everyone kind of wishing you happy trails, wishing you well. To get back in the car this weekend and to have been in the shop preparing to be in the car this weekend, how does that affect your sense of finality in terms of how your driving career came to a close last fall?
Yeah, well, I think that obviously my full-time career is over, and I think that sometimes there are just things that pop up that are fun. I think this will be fun for me. It'll be fun for Cliff, and it'll be fun to just relate and talk with Kyle about what's happening here today. Obviously, he's got a lot going on, so to get back in the car 6, 7, 8 months later, whatever it's been, is you're definitely not as sharp as you would have been if you'd have got right back in and run all the races. But this is really more for just trying to help those guys out in a scenario, and I think they were just looking for somebody that had been in the car. This car is a lot different. It's very, very different to drive than an Xfinity car or any of the other cars that you would run. So we're really just having a good time with it and see how it goes.
And you mentioned that you spent about 20 years or so driving the Gen 4, Gen 5, Gen 6 chassis, which were all kind of related to each other before we came to the next gen, which was a pretty radical departure from that. Is it easier or is it more difficult to get back in this car and take to it knowing that it's so different from what you ran for all but 2 years of your Cup career?
I'll let you know in about an hour.
Yeah. Right. Thanks, Kevin.
I don't know that answer.
Matt Weaver, Sportsnot. Did this ever be close to a thing, Mr. H calling you and say, come drive my race cars at any point over the last 20 years or so? And how much is this kind of a personal accomplishment to say that you've now driven in a way for Mr. H?
Yeah, well, I mean, anytime that these conversations had come up in the past, I had been in the middle of a situation that I was happy with, good with, but it's always just been casual conversation about things. But there's just Rick being involved in Stewart Haas Racing when I started. There was obviously a conversation that happened there to go to SHR, to have that relationship with the engine shop and all the sharing of the information. I mean, he still had to be good with it. So I did have to sit there and put my Xfinity deal together in Rick's office and let him work all that out. So it's definitely not the first time that we've had interaction, but it's the first time that it's worked out to get into one of his cars and drive it on the Cup side. So it's kind of fun.
Does it feel different though that you're driving the 5?
I don't know. I actually haven't. I mean, I've climbed in and out of it at the shop, but the last time I got into one of these vehicles for the first time was 2013, at the open test. That was basically all Hendrick with Rodney working on the car for the first time. And so I don't know. I think it's different because I've been sitting in the booth watching the 5-car do what it does on the racetrack. And I think really my only job today is to get it into the pit box. So, and try to understand the difference in the tires. But, it's fun to see how the guys have approached it with something that is literally for a 150-minute practice. But we've approached it like we're going into a race weekend because they want to do everything they can do to get Kyle prepared and to come from the back of the pack to try to win the All-Star race. So that's really, it's been very methodical with the way that they've gone about everything. I've sat in all the team meetings and been in a simulator and done all those things as we've led up to like they were preparing for the race. So hopefully I can do my part.
Kevin, they announced that the race is coming back here again next year, All-Star race. Your thoughts on that, and is it a good venue for it?
Well, I think that seeing the venue lit up last year with all the changes and the event itself, I think everybody loves the short tracks and North Wilkesboro has been talked about for a long time. And so I think with the repave and now it's really kind of at its, this is what North Wilkesboro is going to be as we go through this year and next year. So it'll be a great place to, I guess it'll be our last race of the season next year. So it's close to home, so that's a good thing.
Go to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. You mentioned being with the team in the meetings and involved with everything this week, and I'm just curious. Obviously, you guys had your ways at SHR and elsewhere, but has anything struck you or stood out about seeing things, how they do things? Everybody's always kind of wondered how, big organizations, really successful organizations over the long haul, how they do things, if it's really that different. Did anything kind of strike you in kind of getting that opportunity to see how they operate?
I heard from the owner twice in 2 weeks, so that's different. It's interesting to see, just the race shop and the structure and the way that everybody goes about it differently. I mean, there's a million different ways you can do things, but I think the thing that sticks out for me about Hendrick Motorsports in general is it's truly run like a business that is a part of an actual structure of how things flow and who you talk to, and there's just the depth of the business side and the racing side is, it's deep, and I think that is. I think that is pretty eye-opening just from the structure from the whole thing, and I like structure. So, I think that's something that has been good to see.
And I don't want to take away from SHR because I'm sure they had their structure, but to see kind of behind the scenes with Hendrick and to have the success that you did, knowing you at times were able to beat an organization that
well, I think our team was our team, the 4 team itself was very structured. We had a great group of people that communicated well, did a lot of little things well, but also took the burden of some things that were probably not as structured within the organization to be able to do those things and still run well was a burden, right, for all the guys on the team. So I had a very special group of people that succeeded in a structure that wasn't as structured as what we're in currently in this situation. So, I think it's I had a lot of success at Stewart Haas Racing and all the things that we did. I'm super proud of and love the relationships that we had. But it's just vastly different cultures.
Okay, let's go to Lee Spencer and then to Kelly Crandall.
Lee Spencer, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. Just curious, how important is it from you being in the analyst chair to know what's going on with these cars, to be up to date, to kind of get that feel and translate it for the people sitting at home?
I think it's priceless. This sport evolves quickly. To be able to understand the tires, the scenario that goes with how long these tires will last, how fast they go, what the feeling is, what all those scenarios are. Listen to somebody else's team. I took my team for granted, right? Because we'd been around for so long, but to hear other people's thoughts and processes and understand all those things, to be able to relate to the fans is a pretty big deal. To kind of get a mid-year check of things that go with the evolution of our sport, because it evolves quickly and can leave you behind quickly. So, to be still ingrained in it and understand where everything's at is always good.
And kind of curious, the challenge of going from a part-time broadcaster to full-time, what has been the biggest challenge that you've faced since moving into that role?
Well, it's just a different group of people. I'm very intrigued, as you heard me talk earlier, just about how to communicate with people and how things are structured. So, the television side, there's a lot of people. And to be able to know and understand how that process works and be able to work with different people. I just have a different team that I work with. So I've been fortunate to not have to get to know Clint. Mike, I've not known personally, but to get to know him and be able to be comfortable in the booth. We've had a good time calling the races and been able to evolve and get better as the year has gone on. So it's been very different living outside the infield. Our most the things that I've had to worry about the most this year is every week is where we're going to eat dinner at night. So it's much different than how you function in the infield. So.
Final question from Kelly.
Kelly, CrandallRacer.com. Kevin, along the same lines of what Dustin was asking, how much do you appreciate or just are intrigued by getting to see the behind the scenes or how another team operates? Because you've talked a little bit about the podcast of how impressed you've been with what the 5 teams been able to do, to where you walked in the shop and I think you said they didn't have to adjust the seat any when you got in it.
Yeah, well, look, it's like I said earlier, I was very fortunate to have a very, very good race team. At Stewart Haas, to walk into another very, very good race team and see, the things that go on and happen. It's just, it's fun to kind of get a peek behind the curtain. I think that Kyle is very good at whatever he races, but Cliff is also very understanding of understanding the fact that he's off racing other things and how they talk about things and when they go through things with Kyle is very interesting because of but he it seems like they want him to keep being Kyle and to be able to talk about the things that they need in their car and how they structure things with Kyle and when they meet with him and why they do that, and that part to me is very insightful because we all tick a little bit different. And there's Kyle likes to race all the time. Some guys don't like to race at all. They just want to race in the Cup car and show up on the weekend and do that. Some guys like to race in the Xfinity car. There's a balance for everybody that gets the most out of them, and it seems like they've leaned into letting Kyle be Kyle, and that's not always the case with everybody that drives in the Cup Series. So letting Kyle do Kyle things is surrounded by a group of people that want to be there because of him and his, how good he is.
It'll be a benefit for you to be in the car to stay current on how it's reacting. But what about, since this is a repave of just kind of knowing how the track feels and how it's reacting for these guys when you go back to the booth?
Yeah, well, all that, right? Like the pit road, I think if we run this race on Sunday, on slick tires and you got the tires going on and off, just understanding how far the soft tires will go. There's a good possibility that if you do that and the soft tire guys have to come to pit road under green, just all those little nuances of little things, because the more detail we have, the more that we have to talk about and relay to the people and you guys to understand. And that's, I really look at it as we want to teach people about what our sport is as well and the things that are happening. So there's a number of things that go into that in order to make the car go around the racetrack that people just have no idea.
Kevin, thanks for coming in, and have fun out there today.
All right, there's the checkered flag. Great job, driver.